Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Go Go Loser Ranger Season 2, Episode 8. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. This series has taken a turn I would have never expected to turn, but I mean, to be fair, I've talked about it before. I've never read the manga, so I have no idea where this story is going and where it continues to go, because once again, the manga is still currently ongoing. But either way, we're picking up immediately with Hisui and Fighter D meeting with Yakushi, Usukubo's dad. And he's kind of talking about, he's calling the Dragon Keepers murderers and stuff. Which, I mean, yeah, they've killed monsters. I wonder, is that also supposed to be about the showdowns? Because none of those monsters die because they're dusters and they regenerate and stuff. But, I mean, to be fair, they probably just it's probably just in general the monsters you've killed over the years. Even those dusters, being paraded around like that and stuff. And I think it's so interesting because it's fascinating. Like a good cult leader, he's sucking Fighter D into it. Oh, God, that I paused there in a weird way. Luckily, sorry. But he's being suckered into this, which, to be fair for him, it's like, oh, you want to take down the Dragon Keepers? Yeah. It's so interesting because it feels like he's more so willing to take down. Well, I mean, he did help take down a boss monster a couple episodes back, but it's like he's so determined about taking down the Dragon Keepers and the Ranger Force as a whole, versus it doesn't seem like his split is as in the middle at this point in time. Because I guess it's like, right, he dealt with a boss monster and that was all his focus. Now he's dealing with the Ranger Force and that's all his focus. It's not like it's kind of like who's ever in front of him becomes the target. He's after both, but he gets tunnel vision on one rather than kind of going after both. But yeah, he's getting suckered into this whole situation of like, oh my God, you think we monsters are so great and so awesome, should be worshipped. You're saying this, you're saying that. Yeah, he's saying all the right things until he messes up at the end and he's like, oh yeah, these pathetic and weak creatures or whatever. And then D was like, huh? It's like, oh, you want to insult us? Nah, screw it. Everything else you said doesn't even matter now. It's like, all right, let's get out of it. Because yeah, you think we not we, sorry, he doesn't expose himself there, but it's like, you think monsters need your pity? Like, oh, we can only survive if we have the almighty humans like protect us and give us their strength. Like, screw that. Let's get out of here. He's sweet. And before they could leave, they get attacked by everyone. And we're getting these little flashbacks with oh God, I'm blanking on her name. She's a senior member from the Green Squad that Hisui looked up to. It turns out like Hisui, I don't know if it's not like she killed a guy, but it's basically because he was kind of a monster supporter. So I'm wondering if he was a member of the Monster Church, which we'll talk about later. But Hisui was like, no, like he was like getting on us about killing monsters. But for her, it's like, no, monsters are bad. They need to die. And anyone that supports them is just as bad. But like her senior was like, no, you don't need to do that. I mean, who knows? Like she might not have been a senior at that point in time. Like, what's her name? Like, what was it? Like I said, I'm blanking on her name. Either way, she was kind of like, right, our job is to protect humans and not attack them, even if they don't fully support what we do. And so when they're like, Hisui isn't really fighting back against the people here. She's dodging their attacks and stuff. But the problem is that they all have artificial divine artifacts embedded in them. And I think this is probably a byproduct of Dai, who was part of the Yellow Squad. He probably manufactured this for them, and they're attacking. It's interesting because some of their attacks looked like a little bit like Hisui's divine artifact, like that chomping ability. It creates like this spirit that chomps out of that space or whatever that it consumes. It's just kind of interesting. But yeah, she was just dodging them. Fighter D takes Usukubo's dad hostage, but then gets teleported away by a monster. And at first I was like, we haven't really seen like any distinct monsters tend to be boss monsters. So I'm wondering if that was supposed to be Walipan's real form, because we saw him later on pop up, like that ring is kind of like a teleporter, and we saw him pop up out of that near the end of the episode. So I'm wondering, is that like Walipan's real form, or is he just like taking advantage of that monster? And those are two separate entities, and he's just, that thing teleported him there. But I'm wondering if that's supposed to be Hualipan's real form. And I think it's crazy powerful because it basically has, like, if you're familiar with Preacher, it kind of has a word of God thing going on that basically it's like all it has to do is like tell you unsee and then you go blind for a period of time. It's like unstand and you fall to your knees. I'm like, that thing seems broken. But either way, now that a monster appears, it made Hisui go like, oh, I see what time it is, so I don't have to hold back against you guys. And she immediately wrecks everybody the moment like Fighter D comes back with Yakushi, because they end up where they did, and Yakushi slashes Hibiki, thinking like, oh, you're a human, and he finds out that he's Fighter D, and he's like, oh my god, I worshipped you guys like ever since I saw like the you fight against the Rangers all those years ago. Like I was like, I chose your guy's side. And once again, D is kind of feeling like, oh, the love. Oh, you want my autograph? Oh man, this is so awesome. It plays into like his ego and stuff. But what I thought was interesting, and this was what kind of confused me with the timetables and stuff, that we knew like the whole fight against the monster started like 13 years ago. I thought it started 13 years ago, but maybe it's a situation of, oh no, like this battle's been going on way longer. Because I mean, it makes sense that the Dragon Keepers wouldn't just exist. They wouldn't pop out of nowhere because of everything that went down like 13 years ago when like the monsters invaded. But I think the point is that's when the war hit its peak, because that's when they basically took control of everything 13 years ago, when they quote unquote killed the boss monsters. They killed some, but a lot of them ended up escaping, yada yada yada. But it's like, yeah, they existed as a group and organization well before then. They've always been heroes of this planet, but it's like obviously who knows how villainous they were back in those days versus now. Maybe it was a change of leadership and the mantle passing to the wrong people, whatever the case may be. Yakushi was just never like a fan. Well, he was like, he watched a lot of their stuff, and I think he was a fan at one point in time, but now he's just like, yeah, like I side with the monsters. And because their whole thing is like, we want to like live in peace, and the only way to live in peace is to destroy the Dragon Keepers as an the Ranger Force as an organization. And so they end up returning, and Hisui is on the receiving end of a beatdown. And luckily, like, D was able to be like, no, 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 let's take her hostage. And Yakushi is willing to listen to him. But it's like, okay. Because it's like, right, once again, it's that thing of you hesitate when it comes to the people that you like. In general, like, you try to pretend to be so indifferent to humans, but you like some of them. And that's what complicates things. And I guess that's kind of also what Chibdori was trying to tell him like 2 episodes ago or whatever. It's just like, you're very wishy-washy. Like you're not as resolved as you claim to be. Because like, yeah, you should be going after humans all the time, but it's like, no, like embrace your role as a monster, but you're not. And so now she's held captive, and the Monster Protection Society has a sit down with the Dragon Keepers, and now it's kind of like it's being televised, and the whole point is to destroy. It's like it's a public opinion thing. If like who could ever get one group on their side will kind of take control of the conversation and everything. And so the Monster Protection Society is all about like, right, you're destroying the monsters. The monsters are only attacking us in retaliation to you. Like if you didn't attack them, if you weren't antagonizing them, essentially, monsters wouldn't be an issue. But then it's Yellow who ends up bringing up the Monster Protection Society and the Monster Church that was attacked 13 years ago by Petrola. It's like they're connected because Yakushi used to be a part of that. So now I'm like, interesting. And I was thinking to myself, like, because obviously Utsukubo, like Angel, she knew that. So I thought that was so fascinating because I was like, oh, you would probably have been alive definitely would have been alive when your dad was a part of that church, which is so interesting considering like, well, Hibiki and his sister are connected to that organization. In fact, she reveals that. She's like, oh, like I am actually involved because my parents were devotees of that church. I mean, it's like that church is the reason why she ended up in this situation, why her and her brother lost their parents. But then she takes off her helmet. I was like, yo, is she revealing herself to the world? And this finally answers something I don't know if I asked this as much last season, but I've definitely been asking it a lot this season was, how much does the general public know about the Dragon Keepers on a personal level? Once again, even within the organization, I'm not sure and clear on who knows what. But to the general public, it makes sense why like their identities were kept secret. Hell, even Fighter D is like, wait, Hibiki's sister is the pink Dragon Keeper. He was like, I was so close to her the entire time, not realizing one of my greatest enemies was right there by me. And that was also my thing too, of like, I'm not sure if even Hibiki knows, but that was also something I was unclear. But yeah, they revealed themselves to the world. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like, you've all kept your secret identities up until now. And then there's a whole thing of like, oh yeah, Red's not going to talk because he's lost his voice, which D's immediately goes like, well, I killed Red, so who the hell is that guy? And when he takes off his helmet, it's the Red that we've come to know. And so you're like, once again, I'm like, was it a twin? Or are you cloning yourself? Like, what's going on there? Or did D think he killed you? But in that, because D never like, it's probably a thing of D didn't finish the job. It's like, oh, I stabbed you, and he probably got found enough so that he could heal or whatever, and they want to give like whoever tried to kill him like, or maybe Red hasn't even said anything to anybody about almost getting killed. Like, what is going on there? Like, either that was a decoy there, or like I said, this, I mean, like I said, it could be. I don't know what his situation is. Like, it could easily just been like, no, that was him stabbed by D, and this is really him here because he's perfectly fine. Either he got healed up, because let's get Hibiki probably moved. Sorry, not Hibiki. D should have probably finished the job, but even if he did, who knows if that would have done anything? Probably would have given us clearer answers if he was like, oh, I'm gonna cut off this guy's head. Well, no, it still wouldn't, because we still wouldn't know if that was a body double or what. But yeah, all of this conversation and them putting themselves out there sways the conversation and makes the Dragon Keepers seem like the good guys, especially when you throw out the monster church angle to it. It like sullies their reputation as a monster protection society. But then when the recording they stop the televisation of it, then Yakushi goes over to Red and he starts taking shots at Red's ego and just shitting on him, being like, oh, I was a big fan of that show all those years ago. He's like, but yeah, you are always like a pale imitation because you suck. You're never as good as your predecessor, as the original. And Red is very egotistical and he's deeply angry. And so he flies off the handles and crushes and rips off Yakushi's hand. And then it turns out Hualipan is there recording everything, and so this blows up now that everyone sees Red's real face, like in who he really is. And now there's no like even hiding behind, I mean, their names aren't made public, but their faces are now known, which I was like, why were you willing to take that? Like, you've never done it up until now, so why now? But I think it's a ploy that we'll talk about a little bit later on like why they did what they did. Basically, over the next 3 weeks, their entire reputation tanks. The weekly showdown stop. A lot of their massive sponsors pull out. A lot of society. We didn't really see too much pro keepers after that, which is interesting considering like what Yakushi said was like, oh, like it's going to be a divide, but it turned out it wasn't as divided. That was enough to shift favor to the Monster Protection Society. So they've gotten a lot of more followers on their side. And Hisui doesn't seem too concerned about it because she's like, oh man, they can finally see Red for who he really is. But she's also like, yeah, I'm going to sit back and wait for Green to find me. But it's like, yeah, Chidori does have his device there in the inside. So he knows exactly where she is. So then Hibiki shows up because he's drawn in by all this. He's like, wow, like, I guess like the Monster Protection Society beat me to the punch of what I was trying to accomplish. He's like, oh, I guess the fight between you and me, D, like it's kind of we'll call this kind of like a draw for now. And then X's, once again, it sounds like that's what Hibiki calls her. Once again, I've never been able to know how to properly pronounce it because I haven't listened to it in English on what they call her in English, like whether they call like fighter X's. Or like, it sounds like that's kind of what that's supposed to be, but whatever the case may be, she recognizes Hibiki. And I completely forgot when she's like, hey, and I was like, all right, I forgot. That's how um Fighter D met her was because when he showed up in Hibiki's room, she was in his closet. I completely forgot. Like, of course, like her and Hibiki had history. So she's like, "Oh, what are you doing here?" And he's yeah, like, "Oh, you're part of all of this." But she's like, "Yeah, you might not. You might want to leave and not be here because the Monster Society, like, they have something planned that." Protection Society, sorry. The Monster Protection Society has more, like, they're trying to get more surface dwellers on their side, but it turns out this is all a ploy. And she locks him in a cage with Hisui because it's like, right, if you want people and monsters to coexist, you need to stay here because that's the only way you're going to stay human. So it turns out their plan is to even the playing field between humans and monsters is their plan is, oh, we'll just eradicate the human species by making everyone monsters. And you're like, interesting, fascinating. So that's what this whole cult deal is. And even the members are so excited, like, oh my god, we get to become monsters. They're like, wait, we're not going to rampage like those kaiju, right? It's like, no, Dai tested like this ain't the prototype. This is like a more fleshed out version. Uskubo isn't taking one because she's like, I'm already half monster. So I was like, oh, interesting. So that's what the heterochromia thing is about. Because obviously her dad doesn't have it. So I was wondering like what that was about. So I guess her like that kind of pale eye, her what is it, her right eye? I guess that's because of whatever circumstance made like maybe like a prototype of that was given to her. Like maybe her dad made that decision. I wonder, does it have anything to do with the Monster Church? What's it done to her then? Haven't we seen her when she was younger? And I don't remember if we saw like her different color eyes when I feel like we might have seen Uskubo when she was younger in flashbacks, but I can't remember off the top of my head. What's also interesting though is we don't know where D is. Like when everything was going down at the end, when Yakushi is like, yo, this is what we're doing. And basically they open a giant portal and everyone in that stadium gets rained on and turns into a monster. You feel extremely bad for them, but you're like, interesting. And now immediately before they even revealed at the end, I was like, oh my God, the Dragon Keepers are going to look like the heroes. Because now it's going to be like, see, they've let that happen. They were perfectly fine with it. That's also why they revealed their faces too. Because like even if this goes sideways, then at the very least we can take advantage of this situation because we know you're going to basically be your own undoing. We're perfectly fine with it. Hell, for all we know, it's interesting because like who's the one person that isn't there amongst like the followers is Dai. So I'm like, not unless he's actually like still part of the Dragon Keepers and the Ranger Force, and he was just like deep undercover, just like Uskubo was amongst the Rangers as well. But it's like, yeah, now they come out the heroes. They're like, oh, see what's happened. Now we're here. Let's go on the counterattack. You know they've got that, like, they're televising that too. You know they are. Because now they're going to get public support on their side, being like, oh, look at this crazy cult. Look at all these, oh man, these people that were sacrificed. We knew who they really were, but the general public didn't. So but we couldn't sit on the sidelines. We had to strike while the iron was hot. We had to do it. We had to stop these terrible people before there were more sacrifices. It's like, no, you could have stopped it sooner, but you let things play out because you want public support on your side, because this way, now no one can ever rally against you, because any future group that tries to take them down, it's like, oh, they're just a repeat of the Monster Church / Monster Protection Society. You dead this movement once and for all, and you submit any doubters could ever, like any future doubters will never be able to kind of raise their voice because they will be immediately shut down. Hell, even Hualipan's whole thing was never like, it was just murmurs and conspiracy theories up until now, even though they ended up being true, and as we know them to be true. But to the general public, they were just like wild, crazy conspiracy theories. And now it's like you will never be able to challenge the Dragon Keepers again, because it will always be able to look back and be like, see, look what happened here. Look what happened here. Everything Hualipan ever said was complete and utter BS. And the public's going to eat it up, being like, oh, you're our saviors. How could we ever doubt you? You know, these guys are the true villains. So it's so fascinating. And I'm, like I said, I'm really curious to see what D's going to do, because we didn't see him when this was all going down. So Is he going to choose the Dragon Keeper side in this regard because he doesn't agree with the way Yakushi and his people are going about this? And what does that say about Uskubo? When this is all said and done, like I'm so scared because I'm worried. I'm like, there's a good chance she might not survive this situation, which is so sad because like D has come to like her, so it's like, but she's part of this cult. She's deep. She's kind of in it because we don't know how involved she. Well, she probably had to be a member of the church as well, not just her dad. I mean, of course you're gonna. I mean, that's why Hibiki and his sister were there to begin with. It was because of their parents. So we don't know what kind of like was he. He was a survivor, but we actually don't know whether he was like a high-ranking member of that church or not. Or maybe he was just a God, I can't think of the term right now, but just a parishioner. Like that might just be all he was. Who knows? But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see where the next episode takes us going forward with all of this. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.